All right, is this thing on? Sweet deal. Well, I don't know what I just watched, but AJ Allmendinger is celebrating a win at the Brickyard, and a lot of drivers are unhappy, and a lot of fans are unhappy, as they rightfully should be. This is Out of the Groove. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. I am live from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I've lost my voice. You can probably hear Jamie Little and Allmendinger over the intercom above me. I do not know where to begin with this race, so while I take a moment to gather and collect my thoughts, we have to thank this week's sponsor.
This episode is sponsored by Fram, trusted since 1934. The trust built by Fram filters goes back decades, and they continue to innovate for the times, striving to protect what matters most and helping you go the distance. Since 1934, Fram's primary focus is to provide leading filtration technology for the road ahead. Fram offers a full line of filtration products to keep your engine running at optimal performance and the air in your vehicle clean. Whether it's their ultra synthetic oil filter, their Tough Guard oil filter, their ultra engine air filter, or their True Air cabin air filter, which features quick and easy installation, takes as little as 15 minutes, includes N95 grade protection, captures 95% of harmful airborne contaminants, and filters out 99% of dirt, dust, pollen, and other allergens. Fram's True Air cabin air filter protects your vehicle's air conditioning unit and keeps it running efficiently. Head to fram.com to find the best parts near you. Their link is down in the description below. Thank you to Fram for sponsoring this episode of Out of the Groove. Now back to Indianapolis.
Oh my gosh, well thank you again to Fram. The lighting is terrible, the audio is terrible, but you know, that kind of encompasses this race, right? This race was, I think, really good in stage 1 and 2. I'm loving that NASCAR came to the road course. I wouldn't be here if they were racing at the Oval. The road course was a serious draw for me and a lot of my friends and a lot of fans that I know. We gotta hit the road because my boy Darian's got a flight to catch, but once I get situated, we're gonna talk about NASCAR's terrible officiating. Allmendinger talking, so I'm gonna listen to Allmendinger. I'll join you guys again here shortly. All right. I don't really remember where I left off, but honestly, this entire race feels kind of like a blur. I appreciate y'all bearing with me. Let's just dive right into this. First off, congratulations to AJ Allmendinger and everyone at Colleague Racing, their first ever NASCAR Cup Series win. It's AJ Allmendinger's second, but the first for Colleague, and as we have seen, that team feels like a family, a very close-knit group over there. Matt Colleague and AJ Allmendinger were getting real intimate over on the bricks, I saw during their post-race celebration. But AJ Allmendinger, we know he's a great road course racer. That team, they're going full-time Cup racing next year, which is exciting, but even this year with a part-time schedule, they've now tied Stewart-Haas Racing in wins this year. How about that? So I do want to say congratulations to AJ Allmendinger. I mean, yeah, right place, right time. He didn't have winning pace at any point today, but hey, sometimes you got to get a little lucky to win these Cup Series races. Really special to see Allmendinger win at Indianapolis of all places. But now let's talk controversy. I'll discuss the event, the mood, the tone, the vibe of NASCAR's first ever Indianapolis road course weekend here in a few moments when I put this race on the groovy gauge, but we got to get the ugly stuff out of the way, because ultimately that's the stuff people will remember most from this weekend. That's the stuff fans, drivers will be talking about years from now. So with about 10 laps to go, NASCAR threw a caution for a piece of debris sitting over by the curbs, by that little kink that gave us so many issues today. It was a good caution call in my opinion. Sure, it was a long green flag run. Kyle Larson was probably going to coast to the victory and it was getting kind of stale, but I think the caution was the right call. That piece of, it looked like metal, was very close to the racing groove, so smart caution call by NASCAR. We then had some split strategies. Larson and most of the leaders pit for fresh tires, but you had a few guys staying out, namely Denny Hamlin, Kurt Busch, Matt DiBenedetto, Chase Briscoe. So Larson restarted 5th with 6 laps to go on fresh tires. Restart was crazy. And going down that backstretch, going into the turn, the little squiggle with those curbs, we see Martin Truex Jr., who was running up inside the top 10, go spinning out of line with pieces of metal flying up into the camera all across the racetrack. It was clear from my seat. I couldn't see the incident itself. It was on the other side of the racetrack. I was blocked by buildings and trees and stuff, but the big screen in front of me, it was clear as day. Tons of debris flying out of the back, flying out from underneath either Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr.'s car, whoever it was. There's clearly debris spraying across the racetrack. NASCAR chose to keep the race green. Where have we heard this story before? NASCAR keeping a race green longer than it should be. Well, the next time the leaders came through that section of the racetrack, all hell broke loose. A huge wreck. Logano ended up buried in the tires on the outside. William Byron wrecked. A ton of drivers wrecked. I don't remember all the drivers that wrecked off the top of my head, but many drivers inside the top 10 were junked going through that set of corners. And it was because the curbing there had actually begun to come up. They'd had issues with it all day long. A couple drivers had had their splitters dig into it and actually damage, like Eric Almirola's car especially. So they've been working during most every caution period on that curbing, trying to keep it down, keep it down, keep it down. Well, after Truex's incident, metal flying everywhere, he might have hit the curb, I'm not sure. That incident clearly picked the curbing up even more, so when the leaders went through it the next time, it was disgusting. A huge wreck, which then led to a red flag and an extremely long cleanup. NASCAR dropped the ball yet again. We need accountability this time. Whoever is running NASCAR race control, it's not David Hoots anymore, he retired a few years ago. Whoever is manning the guns over at NASCAR race control each week, they need to make some serious changes, because this season has been full of questionable at best officiating decisions, especially when it comes to when do we put the caution out and when don't we. Here's the thing, from my seat, again, seeing the incident live on the big screen, the metal flying everywhere, they should have thrown the caution for Martin Truex Jr.'s spin. At the very least for debris. I understand that Truex was able to get out of the tire barriers and move on pretty quick, but there was clearly debris spraying out from those race cars. That should have been a caution. NASCAR decided to swallow their whistle. They risked it. They said, hey, let's send them through there again, and all hell broke loose. I understand where NASCAR's coming from. They don't like lengthy cautions late in the race. They didn't want to have to red flag the race to fix the track at the very end because they'll lose viewership and they don't want to lose those precious ratings at all costs. But when you take risks like that, when you risk leaving the race green longer than it should be, you risk occasionally, and this season it feels like many times, having a major wreck ensue, and ultimately led to like a 30-minute red flag, another like 30-minute cleanup after that. It was like an hour-long delay. The race ended up finishing, according to what I've heard from people, on NBCSN. They had to change the channel to see the final restart because NASCAR swallowed the whistle and didn't throw a caution for Truex's incident, and that led to a huge pileup. Luckily, all the drivers seemed to be okay, and actually the interviews I saw, most of the drivers were relatively tame in their comments. I didn't really hear anyone, tearing NASCAR apart for leaving it green or, putting the curbs there or anything like that. It was a lot of just bad situation, which, I mean, I guess maybe that's all they could see. I guess that's all it really looked like from their perspective. But I'm done giving NASCAR race control the benefit of the doubt. It was Indianapolis Motor Speedway's fault that the curbing was an issue, that it was an issue at all. That's on the track. That is not on NASCAR. Them not throwing the caution when clearly pieces of metal went flying across the track from Truex's wreck, that's on NASCAR. And that just seems like such an obvious call to make. The debris was clear as day, and maybe it all flew into the grass, but the point is, when you see that much debris go flying out from behind a car, it was like a cloud of metal shards. I don't know where they land. You still throw a caution. Should have been a caution. NASCAR dropped the ball and led to a massive crash. The race obviously did not end. Eventually that long cleanup wrapped up and they went back green, and they didn't stay green for very long. They actually removed that curb completely. The entire crowd cheered wildly when they saw that happening on the big screen. But they left the one curb there that was sort of like perpendicular to the racetrack. So on the next restart, Michael McDowell got a little too far out of the way and hit the curb and kind of two-wheeled it, ramped off of it, and more debris kicked up. A big wreck happened. They threw the caution again, so we had a second overtime, and that's where things got even more stupid. Chase Briscoe on older tires was trying to battle with AJ Allmendinger and Denny Hamlin for the win. He got up alongside Hamlin. Allmendinger took him 3 wide, and then Briscoe kind of got shoved off into the grass going into turn 1. He shortcut the corner and came out right next to and came out right behind Denny Hamlin as they then negotiated the rest of the track. Chase Briscoe says he had not heard this, but apparently over the broadcast it was reported that Briscoe was going to be assessed a penalty for cutting the corner. It sucks because he was forced into the grass. I'm not sure if there's a more black and white way NASCAR can interpret that rule, but he got forced into the grass, clearly cut the corner, and came out right with the leader. So a penalty was probably deserving. It sucks, it's unfortunate, but that you got to enforce track limits to some extent, even in NASCAR. If Briscoe had laid over and let 4 or 5 cars go by and fell back to like 6th, then maybe that would have been penalty enough, but he didn't. He came out right with Hamlin, and then as the lap went on, he punted Denny Hamlin, who does not have a win this year, but is locked in a dead heat with Kyle Larson for the regular season championship. Briscoe just dumped him. He said afterwards that it wasn't intentional. He was just trying to bump him a little bit. And even Hamlin seemed to believe as well that it was not intentional. Still, Denny Hamlin was pretty upset with Briscoe, understandably so. So Hamlin got wrecked, finished outside the top 20. And then going into turn 12, coming to the white flag, Chase Briscoe overshot the corner, lost the lead to AJ Allmendinger. It's unclear, maybe at that point he knew he was going to be penalized, but still he smoked the tires pretty bad, lost the provisional lead, I guess, and AJ Allmendinger assumed it and didn't look back. He led the entire final way, and he is now a 2021 NASCAR Cup Series winner. Really, again, happy for AJ Allmendinger. I love his enthusiasm when he wins races. It's hard not to smile, hard not to root for that. He didn't have the best car today, didn't put together the best effort from start to finish, but he was in the right place at the right time, was aggressive when he needed to be, and took advantage of other drivers' misfortunes, let's just say. Hamlin and Briscoe talked after the race. I thought we'd see a scuffle break out, but no, both drivers kept it real civil. Hamlin was more mature, I guess, than I thought he would be. I don't like to say mature, because sometimes even someone who's mature needs to put someone in their place when they've been truly wronged. If Hamlin wanted to give a little shove to Briscoe, if he wanted to get into it physically with Briscoe, I mean, the dude dumped him for the win at the very end of the race. Sure, it might have been an accident, maybe it was a mistake, but he dumped Denny Hamlin for the lead coming to the white flag. I mean, Hamlin has every right in the world to be upset with him, and they talked it out. It sounds like maybe agree to disagree, whatever. Neither one of them ended up winning the race, so usually that leaves both drivers pretty frustrated afterwards. Lost in all this is the fact that Kyle Larson once again dominated, and really him and Chase Elliott, arguably two of the best drivers in the Cup Series, arguably the two best, I think without argument actually, probably the two best at road courses, at least right now. No surprise they were up front once again. It was going to be a Kyle Larson victory until that debris caution with 10 to go, which again was the correct call. It's the non-call on the Truex wreck that just is inexcusable, and that's where accountability needs to happen. Whether it's Coda earlier this year racing in the rain, whether it's even Loudon just a few weeks ago, or today, NASCAR officiating has gotten it wrong many times this year, egregiously. And at this point, fans can't keep giving them the benefit of the doubt. These can't be learning moments anymore. These officially need to become learned moments. You got to get it right the first time at this point. You cannot keep putting drivers in vulnerable, in awkward and risky situations like this. The fans don't want to see it. The fans didn't want to see a huge pileup like that led to an hour-long delay. Nobody wants to see that. The drivers obviously don't want it. NASCAR needs to fix themselves very, very quickly when it comes to race control and live officiating. I'll leave it at that. I've had a car ride or so now to think about it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. You'll hear more of my thoughts in real time, at least during my race day vlog that I'll put up later this week, so look forward to that. Here are the top finishers though today. A winner, of course, AJ Allmendinger, kind of a shuffled up top 10, top 15 right here. Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson still get top 5s out of it, but like Eric Jones with the top 10, Justin Haley with the top 10. There are some surprising names there high up on the leader. I mean, Blaney finishing second. Who saw that coming after Penske struggles last weekend, this week actually? Keselowski was an issue again today. Really topsy-turvy, really wacky top 10. With Hamlin getting dumped by Briscoe and Larson running well throughout the race and finishing in the top 5, Larson has taken over the regular season points lead. So those are some important playoff points come playoff time if that running order stands. And I do want to give a shout out to Tyler Reddick, who played the strategy well. He collected a ton of stage points today. He pulled away from Austin Dillon just a little bit once again, extending his playoff bubble lead. But anyway, those are your top finishers. Now, let's talk about the race, the event for a moment. Let's talk about the event. I want to see this race return next year. I want to see the Verizon 200, or more importantly, I want to see the Cup Series IndyCar doubleheader weekend return next season. I thought that was great. I said this in a video last week, but I wouldn't have traveled here to Indianapolis if it was just another Brickyard 400 weekend. I really wouldn't. That race just was no longer interesting to me. I know drivers still view it as a crown jewel, but as we talked about earlier this last week, I think it's clear most fans did not see it that way, at least not anymore. But when they announced the road course and they announced that not only would the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series be there, but IndyCar would join them in the same weekend, to me that was an incredible value. And so I booked a flight, I got my tickets, I had a great time this weekend, even during the long delays where me and my friends were just kind of laughing about it up in the stands. I still really enjoyed my time this weekend. I felt like most fans seemed to enjoy themselves, at least the ones that were there in person, despite, again, the messy finish. I'm not going to try and estimate crowd sizes. It looked at least as good as any recent Brickyard 400 crowd I've seen, so I don't think it was amazing necessarily, but I don't think it was bad either. I'd love to see this event return, because before the chaos in the final 10 laps, the first, 70 laps or so were pretty darn good. Stage 1 was decent. Stage 2 was amazing. Some great action through the field. A lot of little spins, a lot of drivers just stepping over that line a little bit, making mistakes. Stage 2 was brilliant. Stage 3 was a little dry because Kyle Larson got the lead and really did not look back. He was running away with this thing, but you know, sometimes that's just what happens. You got to live with it. The racing was still pretty engaging and pretty fun to watch. If not for the final 10 laps, this race would have still, I think, been considered a very solid event. The final 10 laps were extremely messy and in many ways embarrassing for the sport, but at least they were memorable. Saw NASCAR was trending all across social media late this afternoon, so at least people will talk about this event. At least, you know, the Verizon 200, the inaugural Verizon 200 will be remembered for years to come. Not necessarily for all good reasons, but it will be remembered. Hey, at least history will remember this race. This makes it incredibly hard to score on the groovy gauge. That's right, the groovy gauge has traveled with me to Indianapolis. Appreciate it, thank you. Did you sneak into my luggage? How did he get here, actually? The final 2 laps were amazing, I'll give it that. When we finally got that second overtime restart and we didn't wreck the cars there on the curbing or anything like that, you know, Briscoe getting run into the grass, then punting Denny Hamlin, and then missing the corner, and Allmendinger spoiling it, like, that was fun stuff. That was Charlotte Roval 2018 kind of stuff. But it was the 2 ugly restarts before that that definitely docked this race some points. I'm gonna settle on a 60% for the inaugural Verizon 200. I saw some drivers like Daniel Suarez took to Twitter criticizing the over-aggressiveness from many of the drivers in the field. He said he was embarrassed, and I can't say I disagree with him, but again, that really only became an issue in the final 10 laps, and I think NASCAR's poor judgment on that first restart, when the one where Truex got spun and they didn't throw a caution, that's really what put the drivers and the teams in vulnerable and bad positions ultimately. So I'm gonna give this race a 60%. I will look back at this day fondly. Maybe that's just because I was here in person and it was just really fun to experience Indianapolis and hear Alan Bestwick's voice over the PA and, you know, see some of the drama unfold in person. Like, maybe that will jade my score a little bit, so I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. Those of you who watched it on TV especially, what score would you give this race on your own groovy gauges? That is gonna do it for this video. I'm editing and trying to upload on hotel Wi-Fi, so I don't wanna make this thing too long. Might be here all night trying to get this thing out, but I really appreciate y'all bearing with me. Thank you so much for watching, and a huge thank you to everyone who came out to the track, all of you who said hi, took photos, talked some racing. That was a lot of fun. Really blown away by the groovy gang support this weekend, so just want to give a shout out to all of you that I saw this weekend. And if I didn't see you this weekend, hey, there's always next year. I hope we come back to Indianapolis. The road course, that is, at least for one more year. Let's give it a try for a couple of years here. Let's keep with it. Anyway, as you can see, a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. I couldn't do this show without your amazing support. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe because we talk NASCAR nearly daily, even when I'm on the road. The grind never stops. I shouldn't call this a grind. This is extremely fun to do. Again, a huge thank you to everyone who came up and said hi at the track this weekend. I look forward to the next race I'll be at, which I think will be Daytona in a couple of weeks. Got some fun videos to edit and to upload later this week. I got to see the Indianapolis Racing Museum and a whole lot more this weekend up close. Can't wait to share those experiences with you very, very soon. Thanks for watching, y'all. I'll see you in the next video.